Today we're going to start solving triangles, which means finding all the angles and all the sides. Now, up till this point, you've only been able to do this formula. What is this formula? Yeah, I know what it says. What is it called? Pythagorean Theorem. When you use the Pythagorean Theorem, what is the only side that must be labeled correctly? The hypotenuse. And it's always what letter? C. C has to be the hypotenuse. Okay? So as long as you get that right, you label C as the hypotenuse. It doesn't matter what you label the other two. You can only use the Pythagorean theorem when you know two of the sides. All right? If you only know one side, you can't use the Pythagorean theorem. Okay? So for this question here, A, do we know two sides? Yes, we do. So we write it out. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. Then label your sides. What is the hypotenuse? X. This is the hypotenuse. And it doesn't matter what you call A and B, so I'll just say that's A and that's B. Plug it into the formula and solve. So we go 3.7 squared plus 2.5 squared is equal to X squared. I just put X in for C because that's the variable they use. What's 3.7 squared? You will need calculators for this unit, people, so please get one because you won't be allowed to use a phone on a test. 13.69 plus what's 2.5 squared? So then if you add those together, 94. 19.94 is equal to X squared. How do you solve for X? You square root both sides. What's the square root of 19.94? 4.46. Let's round it to 4.5. Is that what people got? Or something close to that? This is actually important. Does everybody know how to solve that on their calculator? No?
What's the squared sign on that calculator?
Square rooted.
I got it.
You go this way.
Square root sign on I see square root, but there's like.
You said you want the one. Oh, that might be true.
So it'd be square root 2. That is not what's coming. I've always what I'm putting in the calculator is not.
Everybody else good? Did you get it? Okay. All right. Okay, next one, please. Shh. So, in this one, what's the hypotenuse? 122 because it's directly across from the right angle. So this is C. Does it matter what you call A and B? No, I'll just call this A and this B. All right. write out your formula. Plug everything in. We don't know what B is, but we know what C is. All right. What's 122 squared? Really big number. 14,884. It is 122, isn't it? Oh, I did. Yeah. 120 squared is 14,400. There. Does that make more sense? Okay. Is everybody okay with that? How do I solve for B squared? What do I do with the 14,400? Subtract it. $484. Is that what it equals? Did I do that right? So now I've got B squared is equal to 484. How do I get B? You hit the square root button. I have no idea what that answer is. Oh, nice, easy number. 22? Is that okay? So, if you have two sides, you can use Pythagorean theorem. However, can I flip the page? If you do not have two sides, you only know one side here, you cannot use the Pythagorean theorem. You have to use trigonometry. Okay? If you have an angle and a side, it's trig. Okay? And there's a series of steps that we're going to go through to solve these. They're the same on every question, basically. So I hate that they do all this. The first step, where am I going to label this? Where do you have room? Do you have room over here?
No.
Do you have room over here? Do you have room right here?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do it here. And we're going to write out the steps. Okay, steps. Here we go. Step 2. Steps. Okay, here we go. Number 1, label the triangle. Let's see if I can fit this all in one. There we go. All right, so you label a triangle off of the angle that you're given. So this is the angle I'm given, or that you're asked to find. Label all the sides. Opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. Which side here is the hypotenuse? 14.2, because it's across from the right angle. So this is the hypotenuse. X has to be the opposite, and this is adjacent. Okay. What trig function involves your sides, I guess. So what this means, what trig function involves your sides? What I mean by that is you have two sides that have either numbers or you're asked to solve for. What are those sides and how do they match up to the trig functions? So this is where SOHCAHTOA comes into play. I'm going to write SOHCAHTOA on the board. Okay. So we go back to our triangle. What side do I know? What side am I trying to find? The opposite, right? So which trig function involves the opposite and the hypotenuse? The O and the H. Sine, right? So that's the trig function we want to use. So we go sine. Now, what always goes with the trig function? What number? The angle. Whatever the angle is, always goes with the trig function. So we go sine of 52 equals, what does sine equal? What over what? Opposite over hypotenuse. All right, O over H. And then you fill in what O and H are. Oops. Sine of 52. My opposite is X. My H is 14.2. So the third step would be write your equation. And the fourth step is to solve it. So sine 52 is equal to X over 14.2. So before you do anything, rewrite sine of 52. That's some number. Put it in your calculator. What number is it? What's sine 52 equal? 0.79. Now this 0.79 equals X over 14.2 is the same as me giving you this. How would you solve this? You'd multiply the 4 up, right? How do you solve this? You multiply the 14.2 up. $11.22?
Or 11.21.
22. So we get X is equal to 11.22. Is that okay? This process is what you do every single time. Okay? We're going to do a couple more examples. Any questions about what I did there? Yeah? All right. Next one. So, we have a piece of wood that's 2.8 meters long. Build a drying rack, rest against the wall, angle between the wall and the ground. Okay. These are common questions, all right? Now, they're going to give you a bunch of information. What shape are you trying to make in trigonometry? You're trying to make triangles. So we have a drying rack that rests against a wall. That's all it is. It's a piece of wood 2.8 meters long. So where do I write 2.8? On the diagonal. Right? Because that's the piece of wood that I'm leaning up against the wall. We're going to assume our wall is at right angle because we only know how to do right angle trig. Grade 11, you learn how to do non-right angle trig. And the angle between the piece of wood and the ground is 40 degrees. Where do I write 40 degrees? Do I write it here or there? Here.
Here.
The first one. This is 40 degrees. Now we have a triangle. Do we have two sides that we know? So can we use Pythagorean theorem? Can't use Pythagorean theorem unless you know two sides. So we have to use trig. If we're going to use trig, what's the first step in trig? Label the triangle. All right, where's my opposite and where's my hypotenuse and where's my adjacent? O-H-A. People agree with that? What am I actually trying to find? Find the distance between the bottom of the piece of wood and the bottom of the wall. So I'm basically trying to find this distance. So what side and what side am I given? What side am I trying to find? Adjacent and hypotenuse. Which trig function is adjacent and hypotenuse? Yeah.
This one has a gift for you.
That's all.
Sorry if I interrupted something.
Is this an S or 2?
I can't tell.
Why do I have a 2?
This one sent it with the present.
Take some of the helium and
Thank you. Tied on my wrist.
Yeah. Do the helium thingy. Yeah. Just the helium and try to teach the lesson.
Might improve my voice, yeah. Hang on.
It's kind of deflated.
I know. She gave me a used balloon from her. It's not even my birthday. All right, whatever. Here we go. Oh, A and H. Okay. What trig function is A and H? Cosine. So we write cosine of what angle? 40 degrees, because the angle always goes with the trig function, equals, I'll write A over H. You don't have to write this step A over H. You can just put in the numbers if you want. A is just A. H is 2.8. Okay, what's my next step? Figure out what cos of 40 is. Go. What is it? 0.77? A over 2.8. So what is the A value? So you multiply the 2.8 times the 0.77. 2.1 if we average to 2. If we round to 2.1? 2.2?
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever. As long as you're close, I'll be happy. Are we okay? All right, we're going to do one more example. Kids usually like this. All right. Next one. Determine the height of the wall in the above example. So now we have more information. So if you look, I'm going to redraw this triangle. We know that's 40. We just calculated. This is 2.2, and this is 2.8. They want us to find the height of the wall. This, I'll call that. No, I don't want to call it H because that'll get confusing. Call it X. But now because you have more information, you have more options of how to solve it, right? So if I want to solve for X, could I use the Pythagorean theorem? I could use the Pythagorean theorem because I have two sides, right? So you could do a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Or I could use trig, right? If I'm going to use trig, and I still have my 40 degrees here, this is A, that's A, and that's H. And this is opposite. What trig identity would I use? So opposite over hypotenuse, right? So I could go sine of 40 is equal to the opposite, which is x, over the hypotenuse, which is 2.8. I could use that. Is there another trig identity I could use? You could use the tan one, right? Because I could go tan of 40 is equal to the opposite, which is x, over the adjacent, which is 2.2. All right, we're gonna split this up. This side of the class, you can use Pythagorean Theorem. This side of the class, or the middle, you can use sine, and that side of the class do tan. We should get the same answer or answers that are similar.
I already did the one that you're doing.
So do it the other way. I'll mark it wrong if you don't. It's your choice. I don't really care. Just check your answer with everybody around you then. I don't even know. I'm just doing it quickly.
Do you put the 2 on? Like that? Is that it? Yeah. Oh, I thought there was another step. Yeah. You're doing tan.
Okay.
All right, are we done? What is the Pythagorean Theorem answer? Right side of the class? Just say it. Anybody else?
1.7.
1.7? Is that what you got? No? Okay, we'll check yours in a sec. What's the middle, the sine 40?
1.6.
1.8? I would agree with that. And this kind of class, when you did tan, what'd you get? 1.73, what I got. 1.8, 1.85.
Oh. I thought you were asking a different question.
All right. Why are they all different? Why are they close, but why are they different? They're all right, but why are they slightly different? Sorry, say that again.
Because they're using different sides of the triangle.
Yes and no. These two are closer because this was rounded off at this point. So then you compound that, I don't want to say error, but I will say error, when you use it again. All right. But these are basically the same. This is a little different, again, because we're using a rounded off version and then squaring it. And when you square something, you amplify the error. If this was a test, any of these would be right. Okay? Does that make sense? So the thing about trig is you have like leeway because of rounding. All right. So what I'm going to tell you is always round to 2 decimal places. Okay? In every question, round to 2 decimal places. And then we'll be closer. Everybody will still have slightly different answers, but that's fine. Because I'll just look to see that you did everything correctly. Okay? Questions? You can only use Pythagorean theorem when you have 2 sides. If you don't have 2 sides, label the triangle, figure out what trig function you have that involves the sides that you're trying to find, write your equation, solve it. Numbers 1 to 4, but for number 1, just pick 4 from number 1 because there's a whole bunch of them.
You said number 4?
1, 2, 4.
1, 2, 4.